Hey there, it's Matt Heffernan. Welcome back to my channel. This is the third episode in my new series, Slithy Vlogs, where it's an informal look at what's going on here in the world of my channel and all the retro homebrew stuff that I'm up to and that I'm looking at the wider community. And today's episode is going to be RETROCEPTION. That's right, we are going to be, in my normal Linux environment, creating a VM that is running Windows 10. And then within Windows 10, I'm going to be creating a Cygwin environment in which to run Git and to build and run CC65 to be able to do cross-development for the Commander X16 emulator, which will also be running within that Windows VM. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on here, but this was mainly inspired by a lot of folks commenting on some of my channels that are having difficulty, especially within Windows, being able to set up their environment correctly to be able to build with CC65 and get it up and running on the emulator. So I'm going to show you how to do that in real time. And I'm starting with a very basic Windows 10 VM where not much of anything is installed on there. And we're going to get right to it. So as an overview, so here's again how it goes down. I've got a Linux running right here, and this is going to have a VM running through Oracle VirtualBox. So yeah, I'm going outside the bounds of my normal free software, all of that GNU-ish bits that I tend to prefer, and going into the realm of big time software. So yeah, Oracle, though they give it away for free, it has VirtualBox, which I can create a VM, a virtual machine that will run whatever I want to run on there. And in this case, I'm going to run Windows 10. I could just as easily run any sort of operating system that operates within a PC x86 64 type environment. Probably with the possible exception of the Apple Mac OS, which, as we all know, it really needs to have a very stylish computer to run on. So anyway, within Windows 10, inside the VM, we want to create yet another virtual environment, and rather two virtual environments. The first one is, well, we need to get back the GNU environment. Now, for folks that aren't aware of what GNU is, it's a very fun thing that is a recursive acronym. So what does it mean by it's recursive? Well, GNU, GNU, of course, in computers, we pronounce the G, a hard G. A lot of us do. I do. Just to, I guess, differentiate from like a water buffalo type new. So GNU, GNU stands for GNU's Not Unix. And this is a very old attempt to create a Unix-like environment, but entirely in open source free software. And Linux was originally the Linus Torvalds, the guy who created the Linux kernel, did just that. He only really created an operating system kernel, but had no user space to go around it. So GNU was a user space in search of a kernel. And so they have this lovely little marriage here where we have the Linux kernel with the GNU user space, and what is technically supposed to be called GNU/Linux. And basically every Linux distro you've ever seen is really GNU Linux. And then there's distributions of that. I'm running a Debian variant that is Ubuntu, but again, a further variant of Ubuntu. And yeah, the whole family tree. We're not going to get into that. But anyway, you have this GNU environment, which runs not just on Linux, but on other machines. It runs on BSD. It runs on regular Unix, including Mac OS. You can very easily have that entire GNU environment for developing in, and there's an extremely mature open source tool set of things like compilers that run within GNU. So it behooves you to have within Windows the ability to run a GNU environment. And not just a GNU environment, but also an X Windows environment. Well, what's X Windows? X Windows is basically what a lot of versions of Unix and Linux use as a desktop interface, the lowest level version of that. So within Cygwin, you can pop up Windows in a very similar way that you would within Linux or Unix. So anyway, because this is this sort of contained environment, that's where I'm going to be running Git and CC65. Git is being run in there just for convenience. I could run Git natively on Windows, but I'm going to be installing Git within Cygwin and along with the tools to be able to compile the CC65 compiler assembler suite for our favorite retro platform, the 6502. And of course, the greatest 6502 platform that this video is going to be concerned with is the Commander X16, and we'll be running the Windows version of the Commander X16 emulator within our Windows 10 VM, which is really on Linux, rather than just running the Linux emulator directly like we normally do. And then within that emulator, we are going to run the piano demo that was in my video a couple weeks back about the programmable sound generator for the Commander X16. So we're going to see all these layers of retro goodness. It is truly retroception. So let's get on with it right now. I'm going to switch over to Windows. Oh, look at this. Here, all the things I was trying to figure out how to do within VirtualBox without things happening that were bad. So here we are in Windows. We've got, because we're in Windows, we're running Microsoft Edge. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's just Chromium, right? So if you go to my GitHub and look at the assembly tutorial, I'll scroll back up to the top for context here. So the X16 assembly tutorial repo that I have up on GitHub, I link to it in all my assembly tutorial videos. You'll see there's a README here, and you should read it. If you don't know how to set up the environment for doing assembly programming on your computer, I've created a pretty detailed and easy guide to get you to do that. So first of all, if you're in Windows, you're going to need a GNU environment in order to be able to do what I do within my videos. But luckily, that's easy as just installing Cygwin. And on my README, I have the link for getting the actual file. And here it is also on the Cygwin homepage, cygwin.com. And so I'm just going to download this right now. It's a pretty small download, because this is really just a shell program, and we're going to go ahead and run it right now. So what we need to be able to do within Cygwin is have a few packages installed, and we'll just install from internet. We're going to put it here in this Cygwin 64 directory, and we'll keep everything in downloads, system proxy. Doesn't really matter. Just pick the top one. We'll see if that one gets us decent throughput. Sure does. All right. So let's go back. While this is running, you can see here there's 3 packages that you need to install. We're going to install Git. We're going to install GCC, which the package name we're going to use is GCC Core. And if you're familiar with Linux and really any GNU environment, you understand the concept of dependency trees. So when I install GCC Core, that's going to install pretty much everything I need to be able to run the GCC compiler. And of course, Git will allow me to get the code, right? I'll be able to get the code from my assembly tutorial. I'll be able to get the code for CC65. I'll be able to get all of that, and then with GCC, I'll be able to build it. But I'm also going to need the GNU make utility, which within CC65 there are GNU style make files. So you need the GNU make to be able to make it. That was my little drink break right there. I hope you enjoyed that. So let's take a look here at our Cygwin setup and see how we're doing. All right, we're at the point where we're ready to select our packages. Now, if you were to explore through this, it's huge. There's just tons and tons of packages. You want to install a database? Yeah, we got a lot of databases here. We got MySQL, we got everything. But we don't need all that. We're creating a very simple environment within Windows just for doing this retro cross development. So, like we said before, first thing I need is Git. Where's Git? All right. Oh, look at all this. So if I look under Devel, hey, there's this regular old Git. And that's all we need. We just need Git. We're going to go ahead and get the latest one. That should be fine. And we go, oh, not here. You got to remember where I am. All right. So now I need GCC core. So let's go find that. GCC core. And there it is. And I'm going to change that from skip, and I'll just get the latest. And I could even get the source if I really wanted it. But, you know, yeah. Do you really want to see the source of GCC? Maybe you do. If you subscribe to my channel, maybe you really do. But otherwise, yeah, you don't need to have the source. It has the binaries already there. And if we go back one more time, of course, the other one we need is make. So let's go searching for make, M-A-K-E. And there it is, just plain old make. And we'll get the latest of that too, and then we're good. And then you can see here are all the packages it's really going to install, and you can see it's a lot just to be able to support what we've selected. But that's okay. It doesn't take that long. And so now it's actually going and downloading from the mirror that we selected all the packages that we need to install. And what we're going to get at the end of this is a nice terminal application that runs bash by default. So right off the bat, you're in a very familiar environment. You have a Unix-like environment within Windows that is not the same as sort of the Windows Linux subsystem that you may be familiar with. This is a much lighter weight affair. This is not a whole VM. This is just a very simple managed GNU environment that is running entirely within Windows. It is not a VM, but it does effectively require a separate ecosystem within your computer to run all of the stuff. It is when you build something with Cygwin, unless you are using a cross compiler. If you're just using GCC to build for the Cygwin environment, that's the only place it'll work. If you're not creating Linux or Unix software, you are not even really creating Windows software. You're creating Cygwin software. And so it has to be run within the Cygwin environment, which is the bash terminal that is going to be installed here momentarily. And we'll see here. Yeah, it's a lot of different packages. We may have to speed this up in our post. But meanwhile, while we're waiting for all that, let's go take a look at commanderx16.com. And here we have the downloads page. We saw this on my last vlog, but here, of course, the big download is the emulator itself. So we're just going to do that. And here in Windows, we're going to just download the Windows one. Now, you could go to GitHub and get the code for Commander X16. I would generally recommend against that if you're running on Windows. It is not really easy to do so because, again, this is expecting a GNU environment. So the Windows, at least this R38 version, was really cross-developed. They build it on a Mac using MinGW. And you should be able to do that on Linux too, but I haven't seen that working myself. But in theory, that should work. And I guess you could do a Cygwin build of it, and then you have to bring in SDL2 and all that stuff. But that's going to be a whole nother can of worms. It's best to just go with this version. This version is going to work fine. It's going to do everything that you need. So you can see here, I've within downloads, I have this this zip file, the X16 Emu Win R38, and it's just all right there in the top level. So I want to copy all of this into a dedicated subdirectory. So I'm going to go back, do extract all, and then here it's going to move it to downloads. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm going to create on my C directory, or my C drive rather, a top level directory called X16, and then I'll have a subdirectory under that for R38. Because R39 is coming soon, and I'll make room for that on this VM, if I ever use it again after this video. All right, so now here I am on C, X16, R38, and there's my emulator. And I could just double click on the emulator, and boom, there it is. It's up and running. Hey, print hello. Hello, there you go. X16 basic, everything's fun. So let's go back, see how we're doing. We're getting there. I think we may have to really fast forward that. All right, finally, 100%. So let's we'll go ahead and do the create icon on desktop and start menu, and we'll finish that. And let's minimize our windows, and there we'll see Cygwin 64 terminal, and that will get us a bash prompt. How about that? So, well, now what do we do? Well, good news is we have Git, right? So, and I can make this a little taller just to make it a little easier. So let's bring up our browser again. And what do I say to do next? Well, we need to create a workspace. And usually you're going to do that on your user's window directory. So the thing about Cygwin is when you do, you go to this /sig drive, and it really helps if you actually spell it correctly. So there we see C and Z. Those are the two drives we have mapped. So we want to go into the C drive. We can do dir for that. We can do ls for that. You see, it works as both Windows and Linux GNU all at the same time. So there we can see that we've got a users directory, which is where we're going to have that. Here I've got Slive. I don't know why I just did Slive, but that's my username. And if I do a ls there, now I see my documents and all of that. And what I recommend in the README is to create a workspace directory, but I've already got one there. So I'm just going to go right into my workspace directory. And if I do an ls, you can see I've got a project on there already. And I'm just going to add another new project. So I'm here at the top level workspace, and then I'm going to do this Git. I'm going to clone my assembly tutorial. And let's paste that. Oh. Again, I forget that I am not actually in Linux here, so I'm going to have to do copy from that and then do a paste like this. And now it's running Git. It's downloading it from GitHub. It's getting all the code in there. And then I can open up VS Code. I know a lot of you folks on the Windows side use VS Code. Well, here we go. So I'm going to open a folder. It's going to be in my workspace, and it's going to be the assembly tutorial. And so that's my folder. I'm going to select that. And there it is. There's everything. And if we want to see where we did that piano, that was right here in lesson 13. We've got piano.asm. Now, what I don't have set up on here is all the highlighting. And that's something I guess you probably could do on VS Code. I haven't explored that, but I have a package that works really well for this highlighting for specifically for CA65 assembly code. But here, at least we have a decent text editor to work with. But we don't need to edit the code. We need to build the code. So let's get back here. And what do I say next to do? The guy that wrote this is smart. He knows what to do. All right, so now I've got to clone CC65 so that I can build CC65. And what happens is a lot of folks online, they try to use CC65 from one of the release builds. That's not going to work. It's just not. The release builds are not yet supporting Commander X16. Maybe in the future when you're watching this is a later time, and it's going to work. That's great. I hope it does become a major part of CC65. But at this point, it is something that if you just get the latest and greatest off of GitHub and build that yourself, you will have the support. And eventually that will be part of a real release, but it's slow coming. Nobody's getting paid a lot of money for this. So we're going to copy this git command and we're going to paste that also right into our bash. And there we go. Now we're getting all of the code for CC65. And it's definitely more of a significant thing. So here, I'm going to go into CC65. And there we can see there is a make file. And if I just call make just by itself, it will look for a make file with a capital M. And it's going to go off to it. And there I am within Cygwin, within Windows, within Linux, running GCC and building CC65 from the latest and greatest source. So I may have to fast forward this one too. This could take a little while. All right, now we're built all of CC65 and we're ready to actually start building some stuff. So let's see. Well, how would we do that? Because we got to go back up to, let's see here, X16 assembly tutorial. And we need to be able to call CC65. Well, I don't have CC65 installed. So if I just did CC65 like that, it's not found. CA65, no, CL65, no, none of that works. We need to be able to get that on the path. And probably the best way to do that is to just change your top level Windows path. And if you don't know how to do that, just do right here and let's see, path, and here, edit the system and environment variables. Well, that's exactly what I want to do. And it just brings me here where I can click on environment variables, and there's my path, and I can click edit on that, and then I add some directories. So I'm going to browse to one now that I know I want, which is under here. I have my workspace under my user account, and I have CC65, and then there's the bin directory. So I'm going to have that in there. Awesome. I'm also going to get the X16 emulator because I don't want to have to go over to that directory either. So there's that. There's the X16, and I'm going to make the R38 one what I'm going to be running with. And there we go. So now my environment's all built, but hasn't taken effect yet in this bash. So what I want to do so that I can basically refresh the environment is I'm just going to close it right up. And oops, let's get back into here. I keep clicking the wrong one. All right, so let's bring up Cygwin again. And this time, I'm just going to go right to where I need to go, which is in Sig Drive, C, user. Oh, hey, that's so much. What if I just did CD workspace? Oh, I can't do that there either. That's not really where I am, because if I do PWD, I'm in home slithe, and if you look there, there's nothing there. So let me just do a symbolic link. So I'm going to say ln -s and go to Sig Drive, C, users, slithe, workspace. We're just going to do it right there. Boom. Now look at this. Hey, look. Now I've got a workspace. And hey, there it is. And you see, it's now pointing to where I need to go. Now I don't have to do the whole Sig Drive C users, blah, 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 blah. I have workspace right there. So when I bring up Cygwin, I can just do CD workspace, and there I am. And I'll CD once more into where I want to be. And then I'll look. Hey, all the different lessons, right? So we want to get into lesson 13. And there we see the piano.asm, PSG.asm, and all that. So what we're going to do is run the build script. And so I'm just going to do it like that. And it's going to say, oh, CL65 still not found. Well, how's that? So let's see, if I do which CL65, it's not in R38. It's not in... Oh dear, did it not get in the path correctly? Let's try this one more time. Now I can see why maybe people have some trouble. Let's bring up I'll edit the system environment variables again, and we're going to edit the path. Oh, well, what happened to that? Oh, you know why? Because I just overwrote the one that I had there. So let's just get user error. It's the best. So now we're going to make sure we've got, again here, we'll just go right up here to my user account. Under workspace, CC65, bin, okay. There it is. All right, now I can close this up, and I gotta close this because I need a new terminal. Bring it back here. Do it up, and now I can just do CD workspace, and there it is, and X16 assembly tutorial, there that is. And now I can run the build script. Oh, I still gotta go into lesson 13, right? And then the build script. Hey, look at that. It just silently did something. Well, let's take a look. Hey, there's piano.prg. And then I can do X16 emu right from here. And I can load piano.prg, run it, and hey, there's piano. Yep. Nice. Let me get my sawtooth going too. Very cool. So, hey, it's all working, right? We're good. And that's it. I just built CC65. I built actual assembly code in there, and I could go in now and modify the piano.asm and get some new stuff going in there. I could go right here into my emulator, and I could call it from there. So you notice here I called it from both the bash from Cygwin, and I can call it here from the DOS prompt. And so I can just call that here again too. And this time, of course, I'm going to load up patreon.prg, and just so that you folks can have a quick look at the people that are really making this channel happen. And if you want to get more of an inside track of what's going on, go ahead, hit me up on Patreon. Little as $1 a month, you'll be seeing all these videos as soon as they're available. You won't have to wait until their actual public premiere date. And then if you haven't subscribed yet, at least just go ahead and subscribe. That's totally free. And then you'll click that bell to get notifications and see when the next video comes out. It'll go and ping right on your phone. And if you get the Patreon app and you're a patron, then you'll get pinged even earlier for notifications of when not only my videos are ready for you to see because you're a patron, but also a lot of exclusive content. So I thank you, and that was it. I hope you found this entertaining, enlightening, and so forth. Bye-bye.